What's going on, everybody? This is Tanner Lee of the Kicking Out Podcast. I'm really excited to have joining me this afternoon Mr. Warren Hayes of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Warren, how are you doing this afternoon? I keep wanting to say this evening, but it's this afternoon.
Look, I mean, it's evening somewhere in the world right now.
You're right.
So
You're right.
I don't take offense to that kind of stuff. Plus, pandemics and COVIDs, I think we've all lost, a sensible level of time tracking. So you're completely forgiven, whatever time it is. And whatever time it is right now, I don't know what. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
You're right, though. What is time? What is the current day anymore? We don't know. It's something.
It's something. Yep.
But Warren, you are a busy guy in the world of wrestling media. You got a lot of projects going on, it seems like, always entertaining. But I came across your stuff probably a year and a half, 2 years ago when you were helping out with Fightful.
Sure.
Yeah, with SRS, Sean Ross Sapp, for those of you that don't know the abbreviation, Alex Pulowski, Jeremy Lambert, Robert D. Felice, all those guys on some of their post shows. You were also writing for them. What was your start before then, though? Tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into the world of wrestling media.
Well, quite honestly, it's a fun, no, but it's a funny story. It's like, I started writing actually for Fansided, the Daily DDT. That's how I got into it. I don't remember exactly how, but I probably saw an opening, pop up on Twitter, and I'm like, okay, I'll apply. And I'd never written for wrestling before. Obviously been watching wrestling, but I had never written anything. So I send over an application, and they hire me, and I worked there for a few months. Wrote a whole bunch of stuff over there. And then at some point I'm like, the writing's good, it's fine, but I was listening to a lot of podcasts. Well, a lot. Look, the ones that were significant to me at the time were Stephen Larson, Going in Raw.
Yep.
What Culture, when the Cultaholic guys were still there, mind you. Those were very formative for me, and like, this is really cool. Like, I hadn't realized that there was, and this, I chalk it up to age, but I hadn't realized that there were wrestling podcasts, outside of, let's say, Dave Meltzer, The Observer stuff, of course, cool, and Wade Keller, and outside of the big, journalists, the ones that had been around since the 90s, like when I started watching, when I was really invested in wrestling and was going online, these are all names I recognize. I was like, of course they have podcasts, but I didn't know there were these side people, right? So I'm thinking about it's in the back of my head all the time. And then I'm on Twitter one day, and Sean Ross Sapp tweets out, would anyone like to join me for a retro review on Fightful Select? I just jump right in and DM him and say, sure, I'll do it. And he writes me almost instantly back, and he says, cool. We'll be doing, I think it was Great American Bash 95, I want to say. I don't quite remember. Doesn't irrelevant to the story ultimately. But he names me the pay-per-view, and then he says, are you okay with that? And sure, I'll rewatch it, take some notes. It'll be great. He says, cool. Do you have a decent working microphone? I say, sure. So he says, cool. And we hang up. Well, we hang up. I close on the DM. And I go out and I get a decent working microphone. And that's essentially how I started. So I did that with Sean, and I sort of got the itch, and was like, okay, I've set up, I've got the microphone. I'm going to keep doing it. I open up my YouTube channel and I start doing that way. Sean eventually gets me on board full-time as a contributor. At first I was on Select, I was covering NXT UK and 205 Live, which was seriously a fantastic gig. And then later on, I started joining him on the post shows, Wednesday Night Wars, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was essentially my career path. And then in the meantime, developing my own stuff, working on stuff on my end, tweaking and trying some things out, and doing the audio stuff as well. So yeah, that's essentially how how things work out. I meet Kristen, which was a life-changing event in about itself. Kristen Ashley, who actually founded bell2bells.com, in which I'm an owner and a contributor there as well. So we work on women's wrestling over on that side as well, which is something that's very, very important to her, but also to me at the same time. And though it's one of the things that we connected on very, very quickly when we met each other. So yeah, so there's a bunch of that's essentially how it is and how it sort of full circles to this today. So yeah. I'm pretty fortunate. I'm very lucky. Met a lot of people like Tanner Lee throughout it all, and it's cool. I mean, that's part of the fun of why you do it. I'm talking too much, but I am going to add this. No, I am. I seriously am, and I know. And that's the thing. Is like my brain at some point is like, Warren, shut up. But that's the thing, is like I find that wrestling is such a niche thing even today. Like I don't know anyone around me, like in my day job or in my family, who is a wrestling fan. They will know.
Same.
Right? They'll know about Stone Cold Steve Austin. I have a coworker who annoys me purposefully by saying Vince McMahon is my favorite wrestler. That kind of like, but we like a lot of us don't have people like in our immediate entourage to dive in and have some really good, juicy talks about the business and the products. And it's cool for that. And that's something that I latched on to very, very quickly. It's like, okay, this is awesome because we can create these connections, know these people, and then just have fun talking about wrestling. And then that's something that I want to, it's an environment that I want to create. I hate the word community in creating a community, because it to a certain degree, it feels like a cult, like I created this community. But I did want to be able to create a space where like-minded people who love wrestling could congregate, come together, and discuss it. Without being, shouted at by randos on Twitter. So it's like I think that part is, and still today is really something that feeds me moving forward, that really gives me the motivation to continue doing it, because I think that part is crucial. Not that my community is anything it's one amongst how many hundreds and thousands of others out there, but it's still mine, and there's some great people who are there that we all chat and exchange with and get to know. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. It's still something to be very proud of. I mean, it's yours. You created it. You're meeting great people who are have the similar interests as you. So, I mean, I think it's fantastic.
It's just really weird because, and sometimes, we mostly hang out on our Discord, and sometimes I'm like, we talk about it. I'm like, I feel weird calling it a community because, I feel like, like I'm in a bunker in Waco. It's like everyone, no, they don't call it. Like even the people in the community are saying, call it a community. That's what it is. Relax. Okay.
Well, it's interesting. You were bringing up some facts about social media, Twitter, and everything. And as we know on wrestling social media, I'll call it can be such a toxic place, but it can also be such a positive place as well.
Could be good.
Just kind of have to weed out the toxic and just move on and sometimes ignore it. But what's your standpoint on people who bash other people for liking AEW instead of WWE, or liking WWE instead of AEW? My philosophy is, okay, Kicking Out Podcast, we are an AEW podcast.
Sure.
That's what we talk about. But we're not going to bash other companies or people who like other companies, because in the end, we're all pro wrestling fans. We're in this together. We all have different likes and interests. It just drives me nuts to see people bash other people for their fandom.
Brother, I can't look. It is the weirdest thing. This tribal need to create some form of supremacy. Look, I know where this goes back to. Well, in the 90s, because I was alive and a teenager in the 90s. So the Monday Night Wars, I was knee deep in it. I was hell, hang on a second. I was more than just a teenager. I was a young adult.
I was gonna say I was elementary school, so
No. No. I was a young adult, um, and I was on the message boards. I was doing the whole 9 yards. I was going to Scoops before it was SCS Scoops, and it was just Al Isaac Scoops and OneWrestling.com and News from Dayton, all those places, and on the message boards, and there's a lot of us who were suckered. I think a lot of us were suckered into this ratings war being meaningful to us as fans, as people who sit back and observe the business and who want to just get a grasp of what's going on, which is normal and fine. Brilliant people do it out there, like Brandon Thurston over at WrestleNomics. He breaks down the ratings and the financials constantly, and the ratings on a weekly basis, just giving objective analysis so that you can take and interpret. You have guys over the Voices of Wrestling who will break down the ratings and give their own business analysis, but ultimately it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It matters if you want to look at it from a business perspective, but after that, it's a question of what you like. And it's that simple. And if someone else doesn't like what you like, it's cool. Like, there's no problem. I own a PlayStation. I'm not going to go shit on people who own an Xbox. It doesn't. I'm going to focus on the things that I like and the things that I don't like about my PlayStation. It's the same thing here.
Yep.
The energy expenditure to go off and just and trash AEW or trash WWE just because they're on the other side. There is no side. The only people who want you to pick a side are marketers. That's the only people who want you to pick a side. And I'm a marketer. So even in my own job, I'm like, I want people to pick us instead of someone else, which is normal. That's what you want to do. So you want people to pick a side. You want people to feel strongly about it. But to the point of just going after other fans and ridiculing them and mocking them, and we're talking about fans, but talent as well.
Yeah.
Which is absurd, doubly absurd. I just don't get it. I really that to me is a complete mystery. Utter and complete mystery to me.
It's kind of like the world we live in. To me, is like, what happened to agreeing to disagree? Or, I mean, it's kind of like we live in a world. Oh, you don't like what I like. Well, we can't be friends. We can't talk. I have to hate you.
Camps. Everything is about camps. Everything is about, and you're either all one thing and all the other, but you can't have. Look, I watch AEW and WWE because bunch of reasons, because I cover it, because I want to talk about things that I've looked at. I will not comment on things that I don't look at. That's why people say, why do you watch Raw if you don't like it? Because I don't like Raw these days. Raw's terrible. But I watch it nonetheless. I watch it because I want to understand, because I want to be able to talk about it, because if someone comes and because if I'm in a position to talk about it, which I am, I want to have experienced it. I want to have seen it and say, yeah, absolutely, this sucks, as opposed to seeing a few people talk about it on Twitter and make up my opinion and make up an opinion from there. So ultimately, what I want on my end, when I tweet stuff out, let's say live watching Raw, and there's a lot of rough stuff, or on SmackDown, there was 18 minutes. 18 minutes had gone down on SmackDown on Friday night before we got one match. 18 minutes. And I hate that. That's a pet peeve of mine. Yeah. Then I have people come into my mentions like, oh, you're so biased, AEW biased for AEW. And then I'll watch AEW and I'll be like, man, that Cody promo. Of course, from a WWE guy. I'm like,
yeah, you can't win. You can't win, Warren.
You can't win. And the thing that I've come to realize, and this is an expectation that I'm going to create for myself, or I had created for myself, and I'm going to try and I have to chip away at, is that I can't expect randos on Twitter to be aware of. This is another term I hate, but it's the only one coming to mind. My body of work. I don't expect someone just coming in to be like, oh yeah, this guy, he talks about everything, so it's cool. No, they're going to see the thing, they're going to react to the thing, and that's that. And you're going to be like, yeah, but I'm not. Do I have a preference? Yes, absolutely have a preference, and that's normal. And I'm not a journalist. I don't care. You know, what I do, what I like to think about when I like to think about what I do is talk about wrestling, and I'm gonna talk about things I don't like. I'm gonna talk about things I like, and yeah, it just so happens that AEW is doing it for me these days. From top to bottom, it's pretty much the thing that meets the most of my criteria when I want to watch a weekly wrestling show. So I mean, bias, sure, but I have no reason to not be, outside of, am I being entertained? And I don't care if you're from WWE or from AEW or New Japan or GCW or Beyond Wrestling. If you're entertaining me, I will talk about it. I'll tell it. It's good. If you're not, same thing. It's just that simple.
Absolutely. Social media. Gotta love it, gotta hate it. So going back to your wrestling fandom, when did you get into pro wrestling? I mean, has it been a thing your whole life, or was it more of the boom in the 90s or the 80s?
I started watching wrestling when I was very young in the 80s. I'm so old. I live in Canada, in the province of Quebec. So what we were exposed to very, very young was lutte internationale, or international wrestling, which was a promotion. It was what you'd call these days the Montreal territory.
Okay.
And it was owned by Andre the Giant and Gino Brito. And a little later on, Dino Bravo was also co-owner of it. I think when Andre moved. Anyway, look, I'm not going to get into the history of that, but that's what we get like on Saturday mornings, and what, like, when the rest of, or not the rest, but you know, when big parts of the U.S. were getting, you know, Saturday night, you know, exactly, you know, on 6:05 and all that. Me, it was Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings. You'd get back from church, you'd turn on the wrestling, and that's what we'd get. That's what you'd watch out of Montreal. And what was cool was that Lutte Internationale was affiliated with the NWA, had a working relationship with the AWA as well. So there were some big stars like Ric Flair that I was exposed to very, very young, just out of, you know, talent sharing and whatnot, you know. So that's how I got into it. Hey, my favorite wrestler when I was a kid, you know, again, usually you talk about this with people, you're going to, oh, Steve Austin, you know, the younger generation will talk about Jeff Hardy, you know. It's like, me, Rick Martel. When he was the top babyface in Lutte Internationale, or one of two, because you had Dino Bravo, who was another top face, but they were from two cities in Quebec, Montreal and Quebec City, who were just clashing at each other. You know, they both had NHL hockey teams, and they always hate, you know, everyone hated each other, you know. So that bled into so if you were from Montreal, Dino Bravo was the big baby face. If you were from Quebec City, it was Ricky Martel, and Quebec City is my hometown. So and he was called Ricky Martel, not Rick, you know. So he was the baby face. Hell, he was even a AWA champion at some point, you know, and he had the strap and everything. So he was like my first. I even met him once.
Oh, really?
I met him once. Again, I'm a kid, and my mother is volunteering at a food drive, so you know, you're in a church basement, and you have all these tables set up with bags and goods, and Ricky Martel shows up, like publicity stunt, sure, but he comes and he spends a good couple of hours there, you know, just lifting boxes and crates, and you know, he's a big guy, and people. So and I was super starstruck, and my mother was like, well, just go see him. Just go see him. No, I can't. You know, I can't do it, Mom. And I remember she went with me, and he super nice guy. I zero remember what he told me. He probably told me something like "stay in school, kid." You know, But yeah, it's like just one of the best things ever at that point. So
that's awesome.
So that's how I followed it, and then eventually WWF took over because Vince bought the Montreal territory.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that story?
Yeah.
So then everything sort of transferred over to WWF on the weekend mornings, and then I got older, started getting access to cable, was able to watch Nitro and Raw and all that. And I was a very, very big fan during the Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era. Bit of a dip towards the late 2000s, early 2010s. Watched once in a while, I'd say, but I wasn't as invested. I started watching more regularly maybe a couple of years before I actually started podcasting again. So that's the overall gist of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my fandom, I started. I'm 29 years old for some reference. So I grew up in the Attitude Era. Of course, I liked both WCW and WWF at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then I took a break from probably 2000 to 03. Not because I wanted to. It's because my parents actually tuned in a few episodes of Raw then, and like, I don't think you should be watching this.
In the probes.
It's like, come on. I've been watching it for 3 years now. But so then I took a little break, picked it up again right around, when Goldberg got into WWE and then Kane got unmasked, I know, and all that kind of that summer, I got back into it. And then kind of like you said, back in the late, it was probably like 07 to 2010, I stopped. And then I got back into it when The Rock came back. So
it's wild, huh? Because there's a lot of, I'm going to say us, because I think who like 2009 to 2012, 13, a lot of us sort of lapsed off, which is weird because the quality of workers was going through the roof. The people they had there were fantastic, but there were no personalities to latch on to. You still had John Cena was there. There was CM Punk who was making waves, but it was a tough one to get invested in.
Sure was. And then a few years ago, honestly, my fandom was I was still watching every week Raw and SmackDown, but my fandom was starting to go downhill a little bit until I kept hearing about these guys, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega. I'm like, I got to check these guys out. And then shortly after that, All In happens. And then I got sucked right back in AEW forums and here we are now. So.
And it's crazy how the independents were really the rage back then. Because look, I mean, you look at both major promotions right now, and they've all been powered by Ring of Honor, PWG, just crazy. The stuff that was going on in the independents was crazy, and it was easier to have access to, but not as easy as it is today.
Correct.
It's with the return of pay-per-views via Fight TV and stuff like that, and streaming services like independentwrestling.tv, it's super easy now to get into independent promotions and get the shows, watch some GCW. It's super simple. But even, man, that's it. Like 10 years ago, it was still a little convoluted. You still had to buy the DVDs. You had to know the right people. You could find them on YouTube, sure, but it's wild when you think about it.
I mean, we're pretty blessed right now in 2021 to be pro wrestling fans, in my opinion, because there's so many varieties and options to watch. And like you said, the accessibility to watch is getting easier and easier, even for these companies that aren't too big.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never been easier. Look, I mean, for wrestling in general. I mean, look, New Japan, Noah, they're super good examples because I remember when I was in the 90s, I dabbled in tape trading, but I was too busy doing drugs to really get involved in it. If we're being honest, there's too much effort. So, but I know that like there's anyone who was watching New Japan at the time was trading tapes.
Sure.
Anyone who was going on the forums and was talking about that was talking about Muda outside of, let's say, what he was doing on WCW. It was on tape. They were all trading tapes. And today, man, you can watch New Japan just via subscription, something that was so obscure and was really like reserved for a subset of fans, the Puroresu fans, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like everything is so much easier to get into, which actually adds to your point from earlier, Tanner, that it doesn't make sense that you should waste an iota of your time shitting on other people who don't like what you like, because there is way too much out there to like and invest your time into.
Right.
You don't like WWE, you like AEW, cool. Well, instead of shitting on WWE, and I'm just putting that.
Oh, sure.
Then get a $10 a month subscription to independentwrestling.tv, and you will have oodles of indie promotions just at your fingertips. You want to see the next big things in women's wrestling? That's where you go. You know, it's like, it's so incredibly frustrating when you also think about it that way. It's like, it's so easy to find content you like these days. Why would you even focus on shit you don't like?
I think everybody, or not everybody, these people who bully or target these other fans like that, I think they forget how awful it was after the WWF bought WCW, and our options were really limited back in the early 2000s, and there wasn't all these organizations that we've been mentioning. I mean, you had two choices back then. I mean, TNA was just kind of starting after WCW closed its doors, but wasn't what it is now. I mean,
but TNA is another promotion that has its ups and downs. Every promotion has its ups and downs.
Absolutely.
You know? But there's a period in TNA which is the earlier parts of it, which is unmistakably great.
Yes.
Then there's the Dixie Carter era where everyone sort of goes, help, you know. And I right now I think Impact has never been more interesting. I don't know if it's never been better, but it's been a long time since it hasn't been this interesting. I think they're doing really good moves for themselves, and it's showing, it's paying off. So, you know, good for them.
Yeah, I would say the roster, like in 2009, was pretty darn stacked when they had Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, somebody like Matt Morgan. He's just off the top of my head there. They had a bunch of ex-WWE guys kind of in there. That's maybe the strongest their roster was, but as far as in-ring product, interesting storylines, I agree. Right now, they got some good stuff going on. And I mean, like last night announced Moose versus Kenny Omega at the next pay-per-view next month. That's will be interesting, to say the least.
I have thoughts about Moose, but
well, go ahead. I would like to.
But I don't like Moose. I don't think I like Moose. You know, Moose. He was suspended from the NFL when he was a football player because he threw his wife down some stairs.
Right.
He trains at Team Vision Dojo with Chase and Rance. That's Chase and Rance's people. No, I have no time for that guy. No time at all. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, you know, in all objectivity, it's like who you look at the card right now for Kenny going in there. Who's the opponent? Who's the guy? Eddie Edwards? Bless Eddie Edwards. Yeah. He's a TNA lifer. God bless the guy. But no. Yeah. Yeah. Sami Callihan, I was never on board the Sami Callihan train. I was one of the holdouts, and it was like, no, I don't get it. I think he was interesting when he had a stable, you know, but I think as a solo act, I don't want to. But my point is that who is in TNA that on the short term can provide the threat for Kenny Omega? I guess it is Moose.
Yeah, there's not too many options, but
I don't care about him.
But this whole Forbidden Door, I guess we could call it a storyline, but because I don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes as far as partnerships. It's been really interesting to watch between Impact and AEW and even New Japan. And I don't know about you, Warren, but I got to think there's something big coming in the next few months. I got
Oh, it has to be.
as travel, at least to the U.S., is getting easier. People are getting more vaccinations in the U.S. and everything. I got to think we're going to see, or I'm hopeful we're going to see the original Bullet Club maybe come over eventually and get in a feud with the Super Elite, I guess they're calling themselves, or the Elite. I don't know.
A lot of people are wondering that, but I'm like, I don't think like in character.
Mhm.
Like business is another thing, right? You know,
Mhm.
you talk about money properly, you know, and that's a whole other thing. But I'm thinking like in character, I don't think Jay White gives a shit.
I don't. No.
I think for Jay White, he's like, they can do whatever they want.
Yep.
I don't care,
Mhm.
because in the meantime, I'm tapping out Hiroshi Tanahashi on the reg here. So
Exactly.
I don't care.
Mhm.
I don't think Evil cares. I don't care about Evil, so
I don't either.
Kenta maybe, but
Yeah.
like I don't think I think the only people who do care are the Tongans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think it's the Gorillas, and I think they're alone in their thing. But then again, they were the firing squad, right? That's their faction within the faction. So if they want to come over and do a thing, okay. I'm quite frankly, like, I don't think this ends any other way than Kenny Omega fighting Kota Ibushi. I think there is no other outcome to this Forbidden Door stuff in 2021 than that happening on night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom. Because I fantasy booked this a couple of weeks ago in another context. And I think, look, if you were to say, here, Warren, book us Kenny Omega's belt runs.
Yep.
Like, okay. Will Ospreay's going to fight, or at least he was supposed to fight. We'll see what happens. But he was supposed to fight Kazuchika Okada for the belt. He retains. He retains the belt. No, actually, he loses the belt.
Okay.
So this is important, yes, because that's it. Will Ospreay loses the title to Kazuchika Okada. Kazuchika Okada is doing his in-ring promo at the end. Boom, cleaner music hits. Kenny Omega comes out, and he's like, "Hello, old friend." It's one of these things. It's like, "Oh, cool, you got that title." Turns out I never got that title either. I think, it kind of should be mine. They have a pay-per-view Summer Struggle, I think. Like,
sounds right.
So, or Dominion would be too. Look, it doesn't look.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Summer Struggle. They have the fight. Kenny wins the new IWGP title. Place goes bananas, and that's his thing. He's the belt collector. So if he's going around collecting belts, collecting the Impact World title, neat. But it's not like going into New Japan and getting the big one there.
Not even close.
And we know that's never going to happen with the WWE title. So, you might as well go for broke. And I sincerely think, and I know people are like, well, you get the G1 this fall. Guess who wins the G1 for the 3rd time in a row?
Yep.
Kota Ibushi. He gets a shot at Omega at Wrestle Kingdom. He gets the shot at Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom. Kenny loses. And that's where the downfall of belt collector Kenny begins.
I like that.
And seeing that's the catalyst for everything else, then you can actually, all the other promotions can then immediately start planning, start building the guy who's going to take the belt off of Kenny. The Super Championship, the AEW World Championship, the Impact one, or whatever else he collects in the I think it'd be, don't you think it would be funny as hell that Kenny Omega became the GCW champion?
Yes. Yes.
Because Nick Gage and John Moxley is inevitable. That's coming up.
Yep.
What if Nick Gage beats Moxley and then Omega runs out? And he's I want a piece of Nick Gage.
Oh, that'd be fantastic, because nobody'd see it coming.
And Nick Gage is super hot right now because of the doc.
Dark Side of Rain. Yep.
Wouldn't that be wild?
Oh, I love that. I hadn't even thought about that till this very moment.
So everyone has time to prepare their who's going to take the belts out of Omega, because this is the criticism that I heard multiple times, and I hated it because I realized that there's a lot of fans who, and we have one guy in one promotion to blame for this. They don't think long term, but every belt that Kenny wins, he has to lose.
Yes.
He has to lose everyone he wins.
Yep.
So the question is, and this is where it gets interesting, is who are these stars going to be? Stars, because every guy who beats Kenny Omega, and let's just throw it out there, or any girl, if someone wants to get wild, Impact, you never know.
Yep.
Whoever wants to whoever beats Kenny Omega for these titles, instant star.
Yep.
Instant.
Yep.
And Kenny knows this. Kenny's not a dope. He realizes this. Sure, it's doing tons for him, but this is ultimately going to trickle down on 5, 6 maybe people. Coda doesn't need it. That's not the point. The point is a marquee match. That's the thing. But everyone else, Hangman Page, man, that's the dude. I don't see anyone else. It has to be.
The only other guy I could think, and I don't think he needs a belt. I think they showed that this week. Darby Allin's the only other guy, maybe, but I think Hangman makes more sense in long-term storytelling.
JR likes him better.
Yeah.
He's more of a JR type.
You're right. You're not wrong. But it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. That's for sure. That's
absolutely.
For sure. But what are your thoughts on AEW right now? I mean, we're on the road to Double or Nothing. We're getting more and more matches every week. It looks to be a good card. It's going to be capacity crowd at Daly's Place, 5,500. That's going to be exciting. You looking forward to the show?
Of course.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to everything AEW does on the regular for months at this point. Look, I can only speak for myself. That's the best I can do. But there is not another cable national televised wrestling program, weekly televised wrestling program that checks all the boxes for what I like about pro wrestling than AEW. And I don't think I really don't think anyone does it better. Everything just works. Everything connects. I think the storylines are simple. They're most of the time wrestling based. There's a couple of exceptions, but I can pinpoint to moments where I'm like, I didn't like this as much because they sort of deviate from what they do best, which is putting on wrestling, which is putting on a wrestling show with actual wrestling that has wrestling related stories or stakes. Give you a good example. The MJF presidential race while he was challenging John Moxley. I didn't like it. I thought the first thing was cute when he came out, did the I'm announcing my contendership, okay, election year, we're aping that, fun, but it was recurrent and it was every week. And I thought on one hand, it's too sports entertaining. It's clearly something another promotion would do. And I was like, I'm not into this. Despite the fact that MJF did a good job with it, it doesn't do it for me. And the second part, and this is the thing that boggled my mind right up until they formed Pinnacle. I'm like, why would you saddle MJF with a corny angle like this, where he's kind of toes the line of comedy, and when your opponent is John Moxley, who is all business, and he doesn't have time for this shit, and he just wants to beat your face in. MJF is one of the best promos in the business, wherever you may look. He's a guy who is at his best when he has the one-liners just ready and waiting, and just stab you through the heart. That's where he shines. I get it. I think it's okay. He wanted to flex his entertainment chops, You know, the fact that he was in Glee Club, you know, that's fine. I can get behind that. Show he's the total package. But MJF is at his best, his most relevant when he sticks to the business, when he sticks to being an asshole heel, because he is the best asshole heel.
Absolutely.
No one doesn't like him.
Absolutely.
So that to me was something that I'm like, and like last Wednesday, the hose thing, I was like, that unnecessary.
Yeah.
Didn't need that. And it really killed the pacing of the show too. I found it was like, okay, this is too long. It's not that great. And, but this is a show that starts with a wrestling match every week and a good wrestling match.
A good one. Yep.
Always on fire. Something that you're like, I'm going to stick around and watch more. It's super well paced. The show is always fantastically bookended. Great opening, fantastic main event. Week in, week out.
Yep. And
then they just fill up the show with content, with stuff. Yeah, sure, there's promos and everything, but there's stuff there. Not 5-minute introductions or recap packages over recap packages. We don't need those.
Yes. Yeah.
I appreciate AEW. This is probably the thing that I appreciate the most for. They will reward you for watching. You know, they will reward you for watching in subtle ways. They will not insult your intelligence by saying, hey, this just happened 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
They will, or this is what happened last week. If you didn't watch last week, it's not that big a deal, but we're not going to run through it for you. Right. That means that you're watching tonight. Well, then good, because that'll probably have repercussions next week, which is kind of what a TV show is. You miss an episode, well, the show moves on, you know, and there's new stuff happening. And thank you for being here this week, because then you'll be able to catch up.
Yep.
It rewards you for watching. And long-term watching as well, because they always do throwbacks when they have the occasion to do it, the opportunity to do it, and they don't insult your intelligence by just these constant recaps and this, you know, it's like, whoa, well, what about all the new viewers? But take care of your current viewers. Take care of the people who are watching and are invested in your program. That's what you want to do.
They won't book the same tag match 8 weeks in a row.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or give you the tag match at WrestleMania, wait 2 weeks after, then give it to you again, and then have another result.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. I mean, there are things I do call them out for. Like this past Wednesday on our post Dynamite show, I was a little frustrated with the camera angles and production a little bit. Once in a while, like during the host segment, you could clearly see Jericho crouching. It's like.
Okay.
So, and I know it's little things, but that took me out of the segment right away, because
that you make a good point, because you know production isn't AEW's strong suit.
Right.
We've had a couple of examples in the recent months,
right?
That we can look back on
recent weeks, weeks even.
Yeah. But I mean, but they're improving,
right?
And there are some moments of production that just flip around, and you're like, oh wow, okay, perfect camera angle. This was great, you know, like the angle of Darby Allin when he did that
cannonball dive. Oh my god!
And he literally just bounced off of Miro. That camera angle did everything for that.
Yes.
It was a boing. Like I'm like, I've never seen someone ricochet off of someone's body like that. That was it. That was literally it.
I'm scared to think what Ray Phoenix is going to try to do to top that, because it seems like, oh, Darby did that. Well, I'm going to go 10 rows into the stands next time I dive, because it's like those two have a competition. Those two are so fun to watch.
Well, you know what? It's probably Ray Phoenix was a competition with Darby, right? And Darby's kind of like, Darby just shrugs and he goes, you know, Ray's like, oh yeah, you did this. Well, I'm gonna do a Fosbury flop, and I'm gonna land on the guy's shoulders, and I'm gonna hoist myself and flip myself over the barricade onto my legs. And Darby's like, sure.
You're right. Another shot I did love that I thought just was got me right in the feels the other night was how they captured Darby and Steen moment when they did
the
fist bump the other night. I thought that was
and it's a little something. just just a little. Darby's looking over. He's like, "Pops, I don't know what to do." And Sting's like, "Son, you can do this." You know, that's all it was. And then the fist bump, and it was like, and I was like, "This is cool." Not 2 minutes of monologue in the ring. No, but I'm serious.
No, you're right.
2 minutes of, Dad, I don't know what to do anymore. Sting, you gotta help me. I'm done. Darby, you are the most resilient man I have ever met. I have been in this business for 30 years. I've seen them all. I've seen guys bleed, but it's like, just straight to the point, a little detail, and it tells so much. And that's the thing. Doesn't take you for an idiot. Doesn't take you for a moron. Nope. You understand what's going on. It's pro wrestling, Tanner. We're not dissecting James Joyce. We're not trying to delve deep into the secondary meanings of the poems of T.S. Eliot here. It's fucking pro wrestling.
You're right. You're so right on that. Yep. But don't tell Twitter that, Warren. Twitter will
God, no. Wouldn't want that now.
So looking at this Double or Nothing card right now, what are some of the matches you're really looking forward to watching?
Is it okay if I pull it up just to make sure I don't
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There we go. I'll just pull this up right here, 2021. Let me see here. Well, okay. I am very, very excited to see Britt Baker win the AEW Women's Championship.
It's time.
I think this is the one. I think this is the one you have to pull the trigger on.
It's gotta be.
Personally, I would have done it before. I would have done it before this. I would have done it a month ago. But Britt right now, like when she says she's the face of the women's division, she's not wrong. She is absolutely right. Hikaru Shida, bless her, was the best that they could do with during the pandemic. Right. I think she did great. I think she pulled out some great performances by some wrestlers who maybe weren't ready for the spot. I think she was perfect for the job. I really think she was. I think it's just a question of she's run through everyone. Yeah. We just have to move on, and I can understand that maybe they're a little hesitant to put it on Thunder Rosa because Thunder Rosa still has. Can we talk about Thunder Rosa for a quick second?
Absolutely.
Just a quick second, because this week, she's on NWA on Power, right?
Yep.
You know what angle that they're running there?
It's something where if she loses this title match,
this is what I understand. Here's what I understand. She's cutting promos saying that she's proud to be NWA, but she's proud to be going everyone else, because she wants to be an ambassador for NWA, so proud to be doing this, so on and so forth. Camille, right? Camille, juggernaut, huge, heel. She comes, she challenges her and says, you shouldn't be the representative. You shouldn't be going around doing this stuff. You should be focused here. If you're so proud, you shouldn't be going around, So this is what I understand. They're having a match. And if Thunder Rosa loses the match, she's stuck in NWA.
You're right. That's it. Yeah.
And I'm like, what promotion would be like, hey, you know what? If you lose, you can't go anywhere anymore. It's so that's a punishment.
Yeah.
That's a punishment. You can't go anywhere. And I'm like, who's booking this? Billy Corgan, my God, man. This makes no sense. If she loses the match, she cannot go anywhere except your promotion. What the fuck?
The NWA was Power's one program. I got to say, I don't watch very often, but I did see that storyline. I had the same thoughts as you. I'm like,
but there's no reason to watch it. It's behind a paywall. You have to pay a subscription for it. And the few people who I do follow and who watch it find it miserable.
Yeah, it's
a far cry from the revival that we got in 2019. Yep. And the two things that everyone is consistent on is that the promos are gone and the wrestling is gone. There's no one there that really carries the wrestling load. And the promos, those great fucking natural promos that everyone was cutting.
Yep.
No one is there. No one is there anymore. Yep. So it's a shame. Don't get me wrong, because I was rooting for NWA. I really was. Yeah. And it could be just a lull. Let's cross our fingers.
Yep.
And hopefully it rises. But I can't believe the stipulation where we're like, Thunder Rosa, if she loses, she's stuck here. I'm like, this is not good. No. So you can never do, if you win a match where it's like, if you beat this guy, you get an NWA contract, because it's like, it's not a prize. You've established that wrestling for you is not a prize. Anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for Britt Baker and Shida. I think I think Britt has risen beyond all reasonable expectations.
I think she's the most talent, or the most improved talent they've had since the beginning of when they got on TV. In my opinion.
Sure. I think she's as a all-rounded. Yeah. Sure. I can get behind that, because I will die on a hill that in 2020, I think Nyla Rose was their most improved talent.
Okay.
Because Nyla Rose went from me in 2019 cringing at the thought of watching her wrestle.
Yeah.
To getting to 2020, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Nyla Rose, she improved, man.
Yep.
Leaps and bounds. Like, she really put the work in, character-wise, in-ring. She's not perfect.
No, but
she, like, I'm no longer anxious at the idea of a Nyla Rose match.
Yeah.
But I agree. As far as overall, from top to bottom, Brit is amazing. I mean, Brit is, she's so good. She's so good. I mean, look, I don't want to be that guy, but she does hang out with Adam Cole quite a bit, and sometimes in her facial expressions and her mannerisms are like, yeah, she's rehearsing with. But I mean, of course, right?
Yep.
Why wouldn't you use Adam Cole, perennial son of a bitch, smarmy heel? Why wouldn't you use him? He's at your fingertips. Christ, he makes apple crumble for you on the weekends. Probably.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you tap that and be like, okay, give me some pointers, man. How should I work? I mean, she's just been phenomenal. She's been phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, ever since she made that transition from face to heel, she took it to another level. Yeah, it's time.
I'm also excited for Adam Page versus Brian Cage in a loser loses the right for their name to rhyme anymore. No, but the I thought their match on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago was extraordinarily good.
And what I loved about it, I honestly thought, I was like, oh, Heyman's going to win this, but it's going to be a good match. And then they swerved us. It's like, whoa, didn't see that coming.
I didn't see it coming because I thought they were going for the streak for Hangman. I thought that they were going to tell the story for him challenging Kenny Omega, that Kenny was going to duck him because Kenny's a chicken shit heel, that he was going to keep ducking him, but Adam Page was just going to keep racking up the wins and get like a 40 streak. And then at some point, everyone being like, Kenny, you can't duck him anymore.
Yep, you got it. Yep.
He's the number one contender. I don't give a shit. Not only is he the number one contender, he's been undefeated for X months, I think, and sort of to pressure Kenny into the match. And that's what I thought they were going to do. So clearly not. That's fine. But just on the strength of the match that they had on Dynamite, now they're going to be on pay-per-view and have some time, more time. Oof.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what Anthony Ogogo is going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I got mixed thoughts on how we're going to get to the match after this past week, but
I don't like it. I just don't like it. I don't like evil foreigner gimmicks in 2021. Come on.
Yeah. And I'm a Cody fan, but I like how he can get passionate with his promos, but I thought this past week missed the mark. I just didn't. I don't. Too much that he brought into it, in my opinion. So
it was a bit all over the place, but and there's a lot of stuff that you can discuss on top of that. But like if you focus just on that one thing, an evil foreigner gimmick, come on, especially since Ogogo, what I loved about him is that I don't know how close it is to his personality or not. Okay, so let's say I'm getting worked here. He looks at the audience. He surveys the social media landscape, and he sees all these nerds, all the video game guys. So how does he get his heat? He says, I don't play Game Boy. I have sex with my wife.
Yep.
It's the most basic douchebag heat.
Yep.
But it worked.
It's exactly what MJF did at was it Fighter Fest or Fight for the Fallen in 2019.
But the difference is that MJF does it, with a little.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I know I'm messing with you. Like he's like, I'm pushing your buttons right now, you geeks. Whereas the Go-Go, he's like, he's really like the douchebag who locks you in the locker.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there's no irony to what he's doing. He's more like, no, man, I'm an alpha male, and he believes it, and it's like, and I thought it was great, and that this is great heat, regardless. And just the fact that he doesn't play video games and thinks that I don't have sexual relations, I don't give a shit. I don't mind. That's not for me.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I just the whole aspect of Cody having the American Dream stipulation or the name by his name that night, it changes my whole thoughts on the match, though, because now I'm like, I don't see Cody losing with that. Whereas at the beginning, I'm like, for business, I think Go-Go going over. But
here's my hot take.
Okay.
Controversial take, maybe. I'm very weary about Cody Rhodes these days.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, if anything, the promo just cemented a little bit that I'm okay to be worried about where he's heading.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like everything he's involved in is always serves to
promote,
grow him. Well, they all do self promotion. They're wrestlers, but grow him higher and above, like he has the big entrance, right? He doesn't come through the tunnels, right?
He goes in the middle.
Come through the middle, it's like all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought at the very least he was going to lose to QT by shenaniganry.
Yep, I did too.
At the very least. But he beats QT. And now I'm like, are they going to Nexus these guys? That's what I'm thinking. And I hope not. Because really the best thing to do in this circumstance here at the pay-per-view is for Cody to lay down and eat a liver punch and die. Well, figuratively speaking, kayfabe. I don't want Cody Rhodes to die, for the record. But that's it. It's like otherwise, and I'm very, very serious here. If he goes over a Go-Go, it kind of murders everything that they were trying to do with these new guys. And I'm going to be curious to see, and even myself, I was excited at the prospect of 3 new dudes being put in a feud with Cody. It's a big deal. Attracts attention, and I was excited for them. I love the way AEW handles their new talent, the younger guys. I love how they handle it. But I think a Go-Go is going to be okay, because I get the feeling that Cody really likes him. His logo's great. His a Go-Go at like the Olympic rings. I think it's amazing. I think his theme song is great. Like, they're putting a lot of effort into him, kind of like Jade. You kind of feel like a Go-Go and Jade are Cody projects, right?
Yes, very much.
And Cody's no moron when it comes to the business. He understands it. He knows that a Go-Go should go over. But if he doesn't go over, I think that spells trouble.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, with that report. I'm sure you saw this week, or the rumblings that Wade Keller reported from...
Oh, that they're not in speaking terms? I don't know what to think about that.
I don't either.
I don't know what to think about
and then the Young Bucks, of course, played fun of it and made it a part of their new bio on Twitter. So
yeah, and they'll probably all be having ice cream on BTE this week.
you're probably right.
All four of them, So it's like
I don't know.
I don't know, but I mean, it does feel like Cody has been on another show these days.
Absolutely.
No intermingling, but the intermingling hasn't been happening for a long time.
Darn near a year since the TNT title came into play.
Cody's had his projects.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's naturally distanced himself from the Elite. If we're talking, kayfabe or whatever you want to call it, storyline, starting the Nightmare Family and all that jazz. And I think he's comfortable in that role. The Elite has essentially been, the Elite was always essentially Kenny and the Bucks.
Yes.
And then they pick and choose other people in there, but essentially the Elite was those three. Mm-hmm. But that's it. There's been no crossover, no discussion, nothing. Everything's been like everything in the right place. There hasn't been any crossover. Even John Moxley, he's been over on that side with the Elite stuff, and it's as if Cody doesn't exist in his realm. It is kind of weird. But ultimately, here's the thing: it's like even I can understand if at some point your friends, I mean, you're in a business, you're running a multi-million-dollar business, right?
Mm-hmm.
TV time, you've got talent coming after you and saying, "Hey, Mr. Rhodes, can I have a turn on TV, please? Hey, Mr. Jackson, another Mr. Jackson, can I have time on TV, please?" Kind of thing. I think it can get very stressful on personal relationships. Sure. I can get behind that. But there's one guy who's been making the decisions since January 2020. He's the guy who's been holding everything together. So how much does it matter that Kenny and the Bucks Kenny and the Bucks and Cody aren't on speaking terms?
Right.
When TK is the guy running the show, and that's ultimately all that matters. So if Cody has a one-on-one meeting with TK to set down his ideas, and then the Elite have their one-on-one meeting and to set down their ideas, and then Tony just takes everything. It's like, all right, there we go. It's like, And then you speculate, and you're like, maybe the guys are a little annoyed because it's always Cody who gets the TV shows and the game show appearances and the People magazine spreads and all this shit. And they're like, then again, maybe they don't care. Maybe the Jacksons are like, I don't want to do this shit. But in 3 years from now, Tanner, Cody Rhodes is no longer a full-time professional wrestler.
Absolutely. Yep. He's been on record saying that within the next 5 years, he wants to hang him up. And
I'm giving him 3.
3. Yep. It'll be interesting to see.
2024.
And he's becoming a father soon, so that could change everything. So.
And it doesn't, it will.
Yep. So, but Double or Nothing should be a great card. I'm interested in the main. Well, I don't know if it's gonna be the main event because Stampede 2 could be the main event. But I'm interested in the triple threat: Pac, Orange Cassidy, and Omega. I think that's gonna be a really good match.
The only thing that bugs me is the triple threat aspect of it.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it when WWE does it, and I'm not a fan when anyone else does it. Yeah. I personally think that there was a lot of value in having your first 100% audience return show and have Orange Cassidy come out as the sole challenger.
Yeah,
I think because people are going to be
they're going to be nuts.
Not only are people going to be nuts just to be at the arena and cheer for wrestling, but Orange Cassidy already in the minds of many people, the people's champion, right?
Yep.
Coming out. Match with Kenny Omega, AEW title, the place is going to go absolutely bananas. And that's cool. So and nothing against Pac. Pac is one of my favorite wrestlers. I think he's the archetypal professional wrestler. I don't think there's anyone better than him. He's amazing, selling, brawling, aerial shit. Like there's nothing the man can't do, But I think he's a little shoehorned in there, and I don't understand the idea of the triple threat. I really don't. It's not that big. It's not a draw for me.
Yeah, I think if I had to guess right now how it's going to end, I think Pac eats the pin. I think that's why he's in there in the triple threat.
You think so? You think they're going to protect Orange?
I do too. I do.
I don't even know.
I don't even know. But I could be way wrong because I just feel like ever since he beat Chris Jericho, they haven't put him in a big story. I mean, he had that thing kind of with Miro and Kip, which I could go on a rant about that. That I didn't care for that.
You didn't like it.
I didn't like it. I thought, I didn't mind at first, but 6 months of it, I thought was a little too long. I like Miro now, that the Miro we're seeing now. I mean, this past week, and just the thought of him against Lance Archer for the TNT title signed me up all day long. So,
but you also mentioned the Stampede match. Yep. I'm excited to see if they're just going to stick to, like, they can do comedy, right?
I wouldn't think so with these two teams.
Not after Blood and Guts. You can't do jokey jokes and teleportations and
Sammy getting hit by something or chased by something or.
Yeah, or coming across the football field doing suplexes. You can't do that this time around. Fighting with the mascot, not in this context here. So that I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
Yep.
That I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
I do like the stipulation that if Inner Circle loses, they have to disband forever. I think that makes it more interesting because if not, I think it would on paper be too predictable. And I know Fozzy is touring starting July 14th through September.
Well, hey, I'm okay with Inner Circle disbanding. You know why? Because Pinnacle fucking rocks.
Well, they do, and I honestly think, and I like the Inner Circle, but I think they've been together for darn near 2 years. I think this would freshen up their characters if they split.
I think they need to. I think they've leaned too hard into the hokiness, the comedy. I don't have a problem with it. I like comedy wrestling. That's not the problem. That's not the issue. But I think like it's done a little more harm than good. I think it's hard to take them seriously. Whereas Pinnacle are coming out and they're all business.
Yep.
The beating that they gave Inner Circle on their formation that night is one of the best, most fun things I've seen in wrestling in years. Because it was, wasn't goofy. It was just like, we're just mugging you guys. We're tying you up, handcuffs, putting you through shit. You're bleeding. I was like, this is good shit.
Yeah, that was great.
And that's what they need to continue with Pinnacle, right? That's how it has to go. So I feel breaking up the Inner Circle will help Santana and Ortiz.
Yep.
Ortiz has been hilarious he's been, but you kind of want their grittiness back.
I want the Pitbull version of them back.
There you go. And that's the version everyone misses. That's the version everyone fell in love with in Impact Wrestling. And when they jumped to AEW, it's that version that had everyone freaking out when they showed up. What was it? Was it at All Out? I forget.
All Out. Yep. After the ladder match between the Bucks and the Lucha
and then everyone was like, the violence just went through the roof at this point, right? It's like, oh my God, this is it. This is where they're going to shine.
And we haven't really got.
We didn't quite get that yet, but I'm okay. You can't push everyone at once. That's fine. It's like with Miro, it's like they've wasted Miro. They haven't wasted him. They just decided to go down another route. Now look here. There you go.
Yep.
It's like so. I think that they're going to be the main beneficiaries of an Inner Circle breakup. Let them go off and just be, the hoodlums, the gang members, just the violent sons of bitches that we know they can be. That I think they're going to be the main winners there.
I want to see Sammy by himself. I want to see him spread his wings as a baby.
As long as he's not a baby face.
Oh, you want the heel version, huh?
I want heel Sammy Guevara. Okay. I don't care about baby face Sammy. I really don't.
Yeah. Well, it's his darn vlog for me that makes it hard.
What do you think about Sammy's vlogs versus BTE these days?
I think Sammy's vlogs are better.
Right?
I do.
BTE's such a snore.
And we cover BTE every week, but I was talking to Paul the other night. I'm like, I don't know how many more weeks we want to cover this because it's just there's nothing interesting happening.
And you know who's been missing on most of these? John Silver.
Yeah. You're right.
Silver's been gone.
He just
And-
came back this past week.
Exactly.
So,
But I mean, everything's sort of like at some point, like
yeah.
thankfully they had the Dark Order on BT.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are so many bits on that show where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't think it's funny. Like the Nyla Rose, the Nyla Rose, Vicky Guerrero.
Yep.
I think it's boring.
Yep.
And the audio is always shit.
Yep.
You know, it's like I can't get into this.
Yep.
This is boring. Yeah, like there's nothing really compelling on it. Not even the elite stuff. The Jacksons when they do little things.
No.
It's such a snoozer these days.
Yeah, compared to what it used to be, it's not even close.
It's not even close.
No.
Or even like what they were doing with the Dark Order.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Dark Order was always at least the saving grace there.
Right.
And now even that's tepid. And then
Right.
John Silver's not there.
Right.
So Sammy's vlogs have been refreshing. Sammy's vlogs have been a lot of fun.
Well, even the BT title, it's always on Sammy's vlog. It's not even on Being the Elite anymore. So, yeah. So,
it's a draw.
Title's
a draw.
Two more questions for you, then we'll wrap this up.
Okay.
We've longer than I wanted to take up your time. So,
sorry. Okay, no, but my fault. I keep
I'm enjoying this conversation. I just feel bad I'm taking up so much of your time.
It's fine.
A lot of free agents out there that got released. We'll say round 2 of the. Well, hopefully, doesn't become a tradition of WWE releases on the same day. Where do you want some of these talents to end up? Let's start with Samoa Joe. Where would you like to see Samoa Joe?
Ultimately, okay. So ultimately, of course, you just want these people to do whatever's best for them and whatever makes them happy.
Absolutely,
that's the main thing. I want Samoa Joe to go have a G1 this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'd want. I want him to go in there as a gauging star special attraction, and I want him to. I want him and Shingo Tagaki to go at it. I want him and Tomohiro Ishii to go at it. I want a Samoa Joe redemption run.
He deserves it.
So that everyone remembers how amazing this guy is, how a fantastic professional wrestler this man is. Because I'm telling anyone who you saw tweeting on Twitter or commentating on their podcast or whatever, saying, "Oh, Samoa Joe couldn't cut it in WWE, you know, because he was never that special to begin with," is proof positive that they have never watched anything outside of WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Just that simple. So I think Joe deserves a 4-week G1 of blood and sweats that he won't win, but where he'll have some amazing matches with some world-class athletes that will bring the best out of him and that he will bring the best out of as well.
The fact that he didn't have a main title run in WWE, which I call main title, the Universal or the WWE title, is just asinine.
It's a tragedy. How could you not put the belt on him with the whole Wendy stuff? That he made that angle. He made the angle. Do you know why? Because he's a great promo.
He is.
Because he knows how to work an audience.
He is.
He's one of the best.
And even the feud with Lesnar, he had a Great Balls of Fire, I think it was, or whatever that.
Yeah.
I thought he should have went over there. So,
and that was it was always positioned to be a transitional challenge for Brock, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he made it special.
Yes, he did.
Because he threatened Paul Heyman's life in the corner. It was fantastic.
Yep.
But that's it. It's like Samoa Joe, he looks the part and he acts the part. If he says he's going to tear your head off,
he's going to tear your head off.
Say goodbye.
Yeah. But I could go on for a long time.
I love Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
And I mean, anyone who's familiar with what he did in Impact TNA knows how amazing he is. The PWG shit. He's amazing. He's an amazing wrestler. He just underused, undervalued, underappreciated, underused in WWE.
One of my favorite matches of all time, and one I always recommend to people if they're trying to get into wrestling, is go watch the triple threat between Styles, Joe, and Daniels.
A classic.
TNA.
All-time wrestling classic. All promotions come together. It probably Impact's greatest match of all time.
I would think so. Daniel Bryan.
Is he gone?
Well, I don't know. I know he's a free agent, but I think so too.
I don't want to burst anyone's bubble.
I think you're right.
Here's the only thing that's making me. I can't remember who I was chatting with this. Who I was chatting this with. But they made an excellent point that Daniel Bryan always said that he wanted to leave the business in a better shape than when he came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what motivated him to start working with guys like Drew Gulak last year, where he's like, look, I'm going to work with guys who never get a shot. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part and parcel for the Cesaro stuff as well. So I would not put it past him to have a run on the indies just to himself wrestle some new guys, see if he still has it, find himself a Lee Moriarty and see how he can square up, or Daniel Garcia, or ACH. They've never really crossed paths, Leo Rush, just go on the indies and have a run, give some shine there. And I think I like to think he's still that there's still a part of him that enjoys the art of wrestling and that he wants to go do that, because he doesn't need the money. He wouldn't even have to ask that big a fee to go. You know what I mean? Be like, pay for my flight for me and my kids. Oh, we're wrestling in Orlando. Can we get tickets to Disney World?
Yep.
Kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And just go and just try to elevate some people. I feel it's part of at least the public persona of Daniel Bryan. It'd make a lot of sense. I'd love to see him go back to Ring of Honor. He's one of the founders, one of the founding members. I'd love to see him go back there, wrestle Jonathan Gresham. You kidding me? Mm-hmm. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. A lot of people say AEW. I don't even. You know what? He's a guy who can get a Jon Moxley deal wherever he goes. Or he's like, I'll sign with you,
but I want to work.
But I can do whatever I want.
Yep.
Because he keeps saying that's what he wants to do with WWE. WWE will probably not grant him that. Mm-hmm. But he's resigning.
Yeah, and
they were talking about him on Friday.
Good point.
If he was persona non grata, they wouldn't say a word.
Good point. On the female side, I think I know your answer here, but we'll see. Mickie James.
Oh, she's going to NWA.
Yep. Yeah. That's what I was like.
There's nothing wrong with that either. Nope. I mean, that's it's not a knock. I think the women's division needs a good boost like that. Thunder Rosa she's AEW bound.
As soon as she can be fully.
As soon as it's official, they've got that. I mean, but because in the meantime, you do have Serena Deeb, who is AEW too, but also the NWA champion. Look, but Serena Deeb is still the champion, and she's going to need some proper challengers. Right now, all her challengers have mostly been on Dark or on Dynamite. I think she's had a match. She's had a defense on NWA. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that.
I think you're right.
But I mean, they're going to need other women. Camille will only take them so far. I think having Mickie James there would be great. I think it's a natural fit.
How about Chelsea Green?
I think Chelsea would fit in really well if she were to return to Impact. I think she'd be welcomed with open arms, especially if she comes back as the hot mess. Mm-hmm. I think she'd be a good fit for AEW at the same time. Frankly, I'm sort of hoping that she comes back as the hot mess. I think I really miss that character persona that she had developed. So yeah, I think either or. I think it's good. I don't think she'll be doing any extended time on the indies. She's doing a Zello Pro show in June, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think she's going to look to get herself signed. I mean, she's working hard at it, started her podcast, and she's doing what needs to be done. And I think it's smart.
She even had to change the name of her podcast already.
Do we know why?
She got hit with a cease and desist.
By whom, though?
I guess there are multiple books titled that.
Oh, like 50 Shades of Grey? People?
Well, I guess there's actually books called 50 Shades of Green as well, but not by the same author or publication. Yeah, so
whatever.
So she changed it, and it'll be interesting this next week. I'm sure she'll talk about it a little bit if she can.
Probably.
And these other two talents have been released for longer. Andrade.
Here's another guy who can do whatever the hell he wants. He's going to be challenging Kenny Omega, from what I understand, at Triple Mania, which is a huge deal. I love this because this is going to make so much money for AAA. This is going to be one of their biggest selling pay-per-views in the company's history, because there's going to be so many out of Mexico, non-Latino people who are going to tune into this. The people who don't even watch Lucha Libre are going to tune in for this. And they're going to realize how much Triple Mania is a shit show. it's the biggest show of the year that has so much trash happening in it.
Yep.
Your Vampiro was farting audibly on commentary.
Oh, Vampiro.
I love it. Anyway, but it was a slow news week this week when it was revealed that Andrade was having talks with AEW, right?
Yes.
You're like, duh.
Yeah.
Of course. The guy's going to hedge his bets everywhere.
And right when I heard that, they always have a surprise entrant in the Casino Battle Royale. I'm thinking,
true. That's true. That would be very good. But then again, it wouldn't necessarily mean anything.
Right.
You could just come in for the one-off and then leave, because that's happened a few times as well. Mercedes Martinez comes to mind.
Yep. Jeff Cobb was a one-off.
Jeff Cobb. Well, was he a one-off entrant? Yeah, he was an entrant, and then he had he was on a Dynamite too at some point, right?
Yeah, he was actually on back-to-back Dynamites. That's what I was thinking.
That's right. Okay, sorry, but you're right. Okay, yep. But that's the point. He could come in for just a one-off and then be gone. If I'm him, I go back and I draw in Mexico.
Yeah, and
I go work with my buddies. There's rumors that Roosh and company, they're starting their own business. Roosh and Bandito and Dragon Lee, they're all starting their own thing. They're all friends. They're all pals. Yep. And Andrade has an open invitation to go back to Japan too, I'm sure. Go hang out with the Japanese version of Los Ingobernables. He'll be fine.
Yep.
I honestly don't think that he's going to end up in AEW. I don't. Yep. I really don't. If I think, especially since we've heard that Zelina's going back to WWE, because I think it was the Voices of Wrestling guys who were talking about this, and I'm thinking, this makes a lot of sense. Those two were an act and undissociable, right? They were like Zelina and Andrade. So if they had wanted to negotiate as a duo to go anywhere, it would have worked, and both of them would have just been picked up, because they were phenomenal. And you haven't had a manager wrestler act so closely linked like that in years. And they really could have gone absolutely anywhere. Andrade, Zelina, negotiate together, get a contract together, leave together. It would have been really friggin' awesome, if you ask me, too, at the same time, because they were amazing.
Oh, they absolutely were. I mean, it's hard to see them now as separate acts, but it looks like that's what we're going to get. And I was actually hoping Zelina, and this might be a little weird, but I was hoping she'd come into AEW and be the manager for Jade Cargill.
That would have rocked.
But it doesn't look like we're going to get that. So, and the last wrestler, and she's a little controversial, Tessa Blanchard.
Who? Don't know who you're talking about.
All right. We'll move on.
No, but other than that,
yeah.
look, I'm not going to dodge that. Look, wherever Tessa ends up, there is going to be a rehabilitation tour that is going to be necessary.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the problem, it's like anything, right? I'm trying to say too many things at once, so I'm parsing through my thoughts. She's an asshole. Just on a basic level.
Yes, she is.
Okay. I've heard so many stories about her. She's an asshole. She likes people who will advance her career, and everyone else she doesn't give a shit about. She's very mean. She's very outspoken about people. So she rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Tanner, got a spoiler for you.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of wrestlers who are like that.
Oh, wow. I would have never guessed.
Yeah, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that one of your favorite wrestlers is a complete asshole backstage.
Oh, I'm sure one of my favorites is.
Now, that being said, I don't have a problem with a wrestler being an asshole. I don't, because I'm not, then I shouldn't be watching wrestling at all, because this is something that, time immemorial, it's always been, wrestling has been filled with assholes forever. So if people are like, she doesn't play well with others. Okay. You know what?
Yep.
Shawn Michaels didn't either.
No, he did not.
You know, just off the top of my head like that. So let's say so if that was the only problem, that's one thing. The other stuff that came out about her being racist and openly racist.
Yes.
It's a harder pill to swallow. I personally, it goes against some of my values. So I'm like, well, I don't really care what happens to her at this point. And I follow the lead of whoever she's wronged, or whoever people of color that I follow. And like, look, if they're ready to make amends, I'll keep an open mind, you know, but in the meantime, it doesn't speak to me. It goes against what I believe in, what I teach my kids. So I'm like, no, I mean, they're definitely not. She never apologized. She doubled down on it. And that's something that I have even less respect for. To be like, to even go deeper and be like, no, not only am I not apologizing, but I'm not even close to being remorseful about it. All right, well, fuck you then. It's a shame, because she's an amazingly talented wrestler.
She sure is.
She really is a special talent, and that is going to plague her legacy. And it's a shame, but it's all on her.
I know there's a lot of people saying AEW, but I don't think that's going to happen. Just because, I mean, if they do bring her in, Tony's kind of going against what he's already set. I mean, we remember the whole thing with Hulk Hogan and Linda Hogan.
Well, but you know who's been wrestling on AEW recently, right?
Yeah, I know.
Amber Nova, right?
Yeah. So,
you know what her deal is, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I mean, that's the thing. Look, this is why I always say, Tanner, never, ever, ever cape for a corporation. Never cape for a business. They will always end up letting you down. Yeah, that's unquestionably.
That's a good point.
But it's true. In wrestling, when you look at entertainment, you know, attach yourself to the talent. Cape for the talent. It doesn't matter where they're wrestling, who they're wrestling for. The talent is what's important. If that's what's making you tune in, it's not Tony Khan's savvy business decisions. It's not Vince McMahon's billion-dollar persona. It's the talents, the people that work for them. Those are the people you tune in for. The company is an institution that is made to make money. It's going to make sure that it does everything it can to make money, and it's going to fuck up. It's going to do things that it's not supposed to do, and it's going to do things that are going to challenge your perception of it. It's just that simple. Tony, I'm convinced that Tony Khan has nothing but good intentions when he says we want to be inclusive. When he did the Hulk Hogan stuff, and it's like, that's fantastic. But you always judge when it's time to put your money where your mouth is, and in these types of situations. So Tessa, I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in AEW. I wouldn't put it past anyone to sign her, because it's the business, because Tessa Blanchard, objectively speaking, is an incredible asset to have in your company.
Yeah.
But even though AEW positioned itself as, this very inclusive, diverse area, free of, petty nonsense like racism. We don't support that. We don't back that kind of shit. Anything can be done with a campaign where you're trying to convince your faithful that Tessa's nice now.
Mm-hmm.
She made up with La Rosa Negra. Everything's cool now. Mm-hmm. See, we're all good now. Let's make money,
Yep. You're right. That's very well said. Very well said.
And it's not cynical. That's just the way it is. I love the AEW product, but I'm never gonna sit around chanting AEW because it's never the company that you need to get behind ever.
Yeah, very well said. Very, very well said. Last question I have for you, since you are from Canada, who is on your Mount Rushmore of Canadian pro wrestlers?
Okay, so there's this one guy that I don't know if you've heard of. He's a little obscure. He worked in the United States. Bret Hart. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Never heard of him. Must have been.
Yeah, he's.
I figured that was the given there.
No, I think it's the equivalent of the free space on the bingo card when you ask a Canadian who's on the Mount Rushmore.
And were you a Bret fan? I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes. I've always been a Bret fan. I was on Bret's side throughout the entire. As if I had to pick a side, right? Sure. But I was on Bret's side during the whole screw job stuff. So no, definitely Bret Hart. I think you have to put in there. I think you have to put Stu as well, because Stu is he's not just a Canadian wrestling, just a wrestling in general. Stu is quintessential. I think I'm drawing a blank here. Go with Bret. I think you put Kevin. I'd put Kevin Owens up there.
Okay.
Because his story is absolutely fantastic, and he's a guy who worked incredibly hard from a small town in Quebec too. Just an amazing talent, and these things are hard. These things are difficult. I think. You know what? I've been hesitating, but I think I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna put Maurice Mad Dog Vachon on there too.
Okay. I've never heard of
he's a folk hero.
Okay.
To a certain degree. The Vachons are a wrestling family too, from Quebec.
Okay.
You had Maurice, you had Luna Vachon.
I've heard of her.
They're related.
Okay.
And Maurice was, in Lutte Internationale, and he wrestled in WWF as well at the time, in the late 80s for a while. Just a guy who was a big brawler, had this incredibly gravelly, raspy voice, missing teeth. He looked like a lunatic. It was fantastic. But he was a larger than life character, super well known in the country, a legend in the province here. Later years, when he lost a leg, and in later years he had a children's show.
Really?
He had a kids show where he was a pirate. It was awesome.
I'm gonna have to YouTube this now.
You have to. It's great stuff. See, and now I'm thinking like Pat Patterson.
Yeah. How about Owen?
Yeah.
Not quite on Mount Rushmore.
Owen is special. Owen
sure.
Owen will always have a special heart, but like everyone agrees that he was on the cusp of greatness because he was right there when there was this shift happening in WWF to getting smaller guys more athletic. and the matches he could have had. Like, he was really on the cusp of greatness.
Yes.
Absolute greatness.
How about Kenny Omega?
Who? I know I've probably pissed off a bunch of people here. Sure. I mean, see, because look, I mean, this goes back to the whole Wrestling Observer newsletter controversy, and where they inducted Kenny last year into, this year into the Hall of Fame. Yeah. But like, just for me, he's an undeniable Hall of Famer. He is a Mount Rushmore guy.
Yeah.
Just, he's still active, and, let's see what else he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's undeniable, completely undeniable. Probably the most successful wrestler in the past 20 years to do it without ever having wrestled in WWE.
Yeah. I can't think of too many others I'd put right up there with him.
Nope. So. I don't think as huge, impactful. No.
So, well, that's a good list. I know those Mount Rushmore questions are always difficult.
They're really tough.
People ask me all the time my Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, and it changes a couple times a year.
Sure.
So it's always difficult. But once again, Warren, thanks for joining the show and taking time to interview with me. And where can everybody find your show and follow you on all the socials?
I do my wrestling podcast called the Mr. Warren Hayes Show over on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. I record live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. So if you want to jump in there, we have a great live chat that happens. So you can come and watch me and listen to me screw up live and in the flesh for everyone, to everyone's delight. Or then after, of course, you can catch the replays there or on your favorite podcast application, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google. It's all there. So if you can't make it live, you can still listen to it whenever you can, or just follow me on Twitter to get all the greatest happenings in the wacky world of Warren Hayes and Mr. Warren Hayes. It's on the lower third here.
Yes. It's in the graphics. So
yes.
Thank you again, Warren. Really enjoyed this, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
This was a lot of fun, Tanner. Thank you very, very much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I hope we get to talk AEW again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again.